Take three. Hi, welcome back everyone. It's Mrs. D and I'm coming at you with a tips and tricks video focused on how to make your class listings get published easier. So these are just some more tips from what I've given out before, a little bit more specific details. All right, so like, subscribe, hit your notification button, comment, and share this video if you find it useful and any of the other videos that you have found useful. I appreciate all of you out there, and I love knowing that it's been helpful for you to hear something, anything. So let's talk about making class listing easier on Outschool. If you watched my update video that I just did, it tells you how this past week I have been listing classes a lot for Outschool organization that I've created, right? And in doing so, I kept getting those revision required emails. And so I was thinking, hey, might be a good video to, give you guys this information so that you can get your class listings approved easier and not have so many revisions requested emails. Now, this gets a little bit more specific than the other videos I've done, so I think there's something in here for everyone. There's going to be 5 tips, okay? And I have found that these are things that Outschool is getting pickier on. I feel like their class listings are they're like upping their requirement for them and they're getting pickier. And it also depends on your reviewer as well. So sometimes things go through easily and some don't. I like to not have to redo work, so I try to hit everything the first time. So these were things that kind of kept coming up this week. So number 1 is to put your credentials into the teacher credential section for anything academic and maybe just in general. Because I have had it come back for certain things that they say you're not qualified, we need your credentials, or you and even for like a high school study hall. I had a really hard time getting that one approved based on credentials, the way that I had to put the credentials in. So I had other few had come back in the past, so I always have a basic list of credentials that I have, and then when I do my high school classes, I give them a little bit more in-depth information. But what I recommend is not a paragraph form there. I believe that either the reviewer isn't reading a paragraph form or they don't want a paragraph form so that it's easier for parents to um, read the credentials, because I have seen friends who keep having to redo their credential area, and I only see it come back approved after it's in a list form. And so I have a standard list that I copy and paste into every class. And so this week I was listing an ESL course for the organization and I forgot to put it in, and it came back that I wasn't credentialed and I needed to be, certified or whatever to teach that course. And as soon as I put my credentials in, they posted it. So put your credentials in. And even if it's not like a degree, like, if you have an associate's degree, perfect, put it in. If you have a bachelor's degree, great, put it in. If you don't, list any college courses that you took, list any certifications that you have, list any experience that you have. It just goes that one step further in getting that class approved. Okay, number 2, sources used to make the class. Always try to put a little bit of something into that box. So if you're doing a more hefty research, a heftier class that has required you to do a little bit research to get information here and there and everywhere, then just keep track of those links, and I just put those in. I copy. So I usually include them in the class like slideshow, and so then it's easier. Like I just keep a running document while I'm making the class, and then it's easier just to copy and paste that right into the Outschool class listing. And if you're using knowledge that you have from taking courses or whatever, list that course, list that textbook that that comes from, or something like that. But the more that you have in the sources, the better off, right? Now, number 3. This is the one that it's like kind of a pet peeve of mine, and it has to do with the external resources. So Google Slides is an external resource. And even if you're screen sharing it, You have to list it. You have to be very specific. So here is what I do for that. Okay. I put a blurb in the description. I copy and paste it into the parental guidance section, and I copy and paste it into the sources section, and sometimes I copy and paste it into the learner section. So you have to have it in the first three, the description, the parental guidance, and the sources, and then the fourth one won't hurt, right? So if you don't, it's probably going to come back. And I always put something like, so if all I'm doing is screen sharing, I'll say that the material will be presented to the class by a Google slideshow screen shared on the teacher's device only. And then this is important. No external links will be clicked, no websites will be visited, and no logins are necessary by learners. Okay, that's really important to put in there too, so that they know like you're not, I don't know why. Honestly, like if you say you're screen sharing a Google slide, it should be good enough. But sometimes it's not, depending on your reviewer. So if you just put something like that in there for every single one, that's fine. And then you can easily list Google Slides, Google Docs, if that's what you're using. You also, like, I use the wheel of names all the time in my classes, and that has to go under an external resource that's not approved, which I hate because it's like, I'm only screen sharing that. The students are not, going to that at all, but I have to list it anyway so that it doesn't come back rejected. And you have to list it as an external resource. And I'm always afraid that like that those unapproved resources are going to scare parents away. But anyway, so just do your due diligence and go ahead and list those things on there because it's better than having to redo your work. Okay. So, number 4. In ongoing classes, we also need to put a blurb in there. It's really important to use the wording as an ongoing class. Learners can enroll and unenroll at any time. The lessons are independent from other lessons prior or after, and the students do not need to know anything for each session. Okay, so I was having some difficulty with the wordings of some things, and so that kept coming back. And so we want to be very clear that these classes as ongoing don't build on each other. Set them up in a way that shows that they do not build on each other and be very specific. I had to tweak some of the verbiage in my descriptions just to like show each class is going to follow this schedule and then list that out and just making sure that it's very clear that that is one class. Okay, and then putting that little blurb at the bottom as well. All right, so number 5, breaking down your class schedule. So I like to break down a class schedule, especially for ongoing classes, because then I can say each class will follow this structure, right? And I also like to do it because it helps the teachers that might be teaching for the organization to kind of have that, this is like a mini lesson plan for them. So they're following that description and that breakdown. And also, like for me as a teacher, listing that description is helpful because then if a parent has an issue, I can come back and I can say, well, this is what we were going to do, or I can tweak my listing if I have to, if that's not what's happening in the class. But I think it also helps the reviewers kind of understand what's going on. Now, there's two ways that you can do it. One is that you can break it out by time, and you can dedicate this much time for warm up, this much time for review, this much time for teaching, this much time for guided practice, this much time for independent, this much time for wrapping up. Whatever. Fine. You can break that down, but don't leave any wiggle room because I will put something in like with room for discussion and leave like a 5-minute wiggle room, and it comes back every time that it does. Your class is listed for 45 minutes, but you've only put 40 minutes in your scheduled breakdown. So And I think 5 minutes for a little bit of extra discussion time is perfectly acceptable, but it never gets passed through the reviewer. So if you're going to list out the time, make sure that it's very exact to the class beginning and the class ending. And then the other way to do it is just to give a breakdown of the class, warm up, review, um, teaching, guided practice, independent practice, wrap up, and leave no times. Like, don't put the times on, leave the times out. And they do get approved that way too. Maybe, easier, but sometimes I like to have that breakdown, like I said, for the teachers to follow a little bit easier. Okay, so yeah. So that's two ways that you can put your breakdown of your class description schedule in there. All right. So sorry if I seem really out of it, but it's been a rough week with the sleep training. See that update video. And anyways, that is 5 ways to make your class listings for Outschool get approved a little bit easier. So good luck. If this has been helpful, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, share the video with someone who you know might be struggling, and I will see you in the next one.